Hi, my name is Anne Chenery Brinkworth. My middle name is my mother's maiden name, and because of that, it was the first name that I started to follow because it was easy, because it was different. My two granddads, Thomas Jones and Thomas George Chenery, both had interesting lives, and I think that it's wonderful to be able to follow what they could do. First of all, Thomas George Chenery was born in 1886. His father was Thomas Henry Harry, a grocer, and his mother was Louisa Lamerton, the daughter of George Lamerton, a publican in Rotherhithe. Nice area. When they got married, he was a commercial traveller, his dad was a commercial traveller, and then they settled in Tottenham. He had another brother, Vic, and three sisters. They all got really good jobs. The two boys became engineers, and the three girls were either teachers or in business. In 1914, Thomas George, having been in the territorials, went to war. He signed up and went to war at the age of 29. He was in the 1st, 5th of the 22nd Cheshires. This was a pioneer corps, which basically meant that he got up over the edge, crawled, cut the wires, prepared the way, went back, and then went over with the rest of them. This he did for the entire war. Unfortunately, he was gassed, so he had chest problems for the rest of his life, but he lived till 1955 and died 6 weeks after I was born. In the Second World War, he was an ARP warden in Kelsall. When he came back from the First World War, he married a girl called Mary Elizabeth Dutton, known as Tot. She had 2 children because her husband, known to Thomas, had died from injuries in the First World War. Unfortunately, Tot died of flu in 1923. But my grandma, Aspin, who had already met Thomas, contacted him, and they got married in 1924, keeping the 2 children as part of their then growing family. Unfortunately, my grandma died in 1953, so I didn't get to know her. But I think all the women in that family were of very strong personalities, and I really think that's probably carried on in me. Now, my other granddad, Thomas Jones, he was born in 1898. He didn't get on with his father. He was one of 10 children, and he ran away to sea, signing up in Liverpool with the Marines in around about 1912. Yet to be found because he was underage, so it's very difficult to find somebody in the Marines when they've lied about their age. However, he went round Cape Horn on a ship with sails. Although the boat did have coal facilities, the captain didn't want to use it because it was too expensive, so he went round Cape Horn by sail. And because he was one of the youngest, he was the one that climbed up the rigging and up to the top of the mast to look where they were going. He also used to tell me stories about sailing the South China Seas, about boarding ships with sabres drawn, and it's really fascinated me. The fact that I hate sailing is a great pity because I will eventually get to the South China Seas. He was in Burma. He was at Vladivostok when the Russian uprising occurred. He married my grandma in 1923. They had my Uncle Don, and 5 years later, having gone away, they came back and they had my dad. So by 1929, my grandma had seen my granddad for the sole purpose of about 4 months in total, having been married for about 6 years. When my granddad got to finishing his time with the Marines in 1939, he came out and within 3 months had rejoined because of the war, and this time was based at Newport as a person that went out to the ships with sealed notices as to where the ships were going. Because he didn't drink whiskey, and the sailors used to give him whiskey for being on the boat, he'd come back, go to the local pubs and transfer the whiskey into beer, which was much more to his liking. He went to Dunkirk simply because he had to go down to Dover to give instructions to people. There were lots of very tired people on lots of little boats, so he and 4 others, I believe one of them was one of my other uncles, got on a boat, went to Dunkirk, and they ferried with their little boat the soldiers from the beaches to the bigger boats, and kept on doing that until our own boat was bombed and they had to come back on the Royal Iris themselves, arriving in Plymouth. When they arrived in Plymouth, the people from Dunkirk were being taken to any port they could. And my dad was standing, and he was the one that had to stand at the gate giving out cigarettes to the soldiers as they came off the boats. And at one point, Grandad walked past my dad and said to me, "You know I don't smoke that muck," because that was the first time my dad had seen him in months and months and months. As I said, the people in my family were very strong people. We've had nurses. I was a midwife, my mum was a nurse, my auntie was a nurse, and my cousins were teachers. I'm very proud of the whole people in my family, and I look forward to researching more about the Marines, more about Charles Bonning, who was also in the Marines, more about my great-granddad, who was at the Boxer Rising, and all about the boats that were on in the First and the Second World War. Thank you.